Bonjour. And today we're covering the subjunctive mood in French, part 2. We can speak of the French present subjunctive by saying what it does not. And what it does not is communicate certainty. Instead, the subjunctive mood communicates the possibility, the likelihood of something happening, and thus one could say that it is not as dictatorial as the imperative mood and not as scaredy cat as the conditional mood, which requires a condition for something to happen. So, today we're covering more ways to identify, or better yet, use the subjunctive mood. But that's not all. We'll also top it off with Maraska cherries, or maybe not with Maraska cherries, but with an exercise for you just at the end, which is almost as cool, right? So, are you ready? Can we start? Because there's no time to waste, because the French language is slowly losing its luster, man. So, let's start. Today, we're going to learn more ways to use the subjunctive present and past, because it applies to both of these tenses of the subjunctive mood. We already covered one type of use in the previous lesson, so I recommend you watch this lesson if you haven't watched this one. There's a link below the video. Just click it and be done with it. But if you've already seen the first video, then we can start with the second use. And it is, you can use the subjunctive mood in French when thinking and hoping in interrogative or negative situations or sentences, just like we have in this sentence. She doesn't think Steve is a rude robot. Well, that's her opinion. Elle ne pense pas que Steve soit un robot désagréable. When thinking and hoping in interrogative or negative sentence, so we have a good amount of information here. Not only must the sentence be in the interrogative or negative sentence, and here, as you can say, it's a negative sentence, but it is also connected to verbs when you think about something or when you hope that something happens. Elle ne pense pas que Steve soit un robot désagréable. I'm not writing Elle ne pense pas que Steve est un robot désagréable. I'm not using the indicative mood here because it is a possibility. We're not certain. No one can state that Steve is actually very, very annoying. It's a point of view. Maybe it's very entertaining for the kids, but not for the adult. And in that sense, we resort to the subjunctive mood. That was the first use. Another example. Do you think Timber and Josie are done eating? Croyez-vous que Timber et Josie aient fini de manger? We're not sure whether they're done eating or not. So we need to ask, croyez-vous que, the question, Timber and Josie aient fini de manger? We're like in the unknown, this possibility. Maybe they're done eating, maybe they're not. We don't really know exactly. And then, third example, would you like me to respond to this message? Souhaitez-vous que je réponde à ce message? And in that sense, we're not quite sure that this is going to happen or not. We're not sure whether that person is going to pick up the phone and answer that person or not. It's like we're lost. Basically, we're lost among the probabilities. The quantum field is flooding us with possibilities. We're like, subjunctive mood, man. That's what it's all about. Another type of use that warrants the use of the subjunctive mood. With opinions coupled with il est, plus adjectives of value. Il est bon que Steve soit à la maison. It's good, it's so good that Steve is home. Il est bon, value. Il est intéressant que Steve soit à la maison. It's interesting that Steve is at home, or is home. This is not a very long lesson. We're almost done here. With verbs expressing strong emotions. I regret that his family is for the birth of Robotron 444, the half-man, half-headless horse robot. Je déplore. You know, it's like commedia dell'arte. Je déplore. I regret. It's a strong verb expressing strong emotions. Je déplore que cette famille soit. I regret that this family is. In English, we don't observe the same nuance. Pay attention here. Je déplore, strong emotion, que cette famille soit pour la mise au monde de Robotron 444, le robot mi-cheval sans tête. In that case, you could argue that we're not 100% sure that this family is really for the birth of Robotron 444. But it is very likely, but we're not certain. In that case, it is a subjunctive mood. I guess you could change this. You could rewrite the sentence to make it clear that this family is definitely for the birth of Robotron 444. But in that case, you know, it's like the person is so amazed by the news, so astonished. Not amazed, astonished, so stunned, literally. Blown away by the news that they use the subjunctive mood. They're like, what? I cannot believe it. That thing could happen. So it is possible that it doesn't actually, it's actually not the case. In that situation, we need a subjunctive mood. Another example, when requesting, commanding, preferring, forbidding, allowing, a fair bit of information, but let's take an example. He prefers the meal to be served in a dome crystal multifaceted bowl. Il préfère que le repas soit servi dans un bol multifacette en cristal dôme. We have a verb of what? What is prefer? What do you think? It is a request? A command? Preferring? Forbidding or allowing? Yeah, it is, of course, preferring. But it also works with requests, commands, for when you forbid someone to do something or when you allow someone to do something. I forbid you to do this. Je ne veux pas que tu fasses ça. You know, I'm not saying je ne veux pas que tu fais ça, which would be I don't want you to do this, but in the present tense of the indicative mode. No, none of that. It is a subjunctive mood here. Je ne veux pas que tu fasses ça. Forbidding. So very important, this point number 5 here. Very important. And I had to change all the numbers because I made a mistake at the beginning of the lesson. See, this is very improvised, but we'll make it through. It also is necessary to use the subjunctive mood when a verb coupled with a superlative followed by que plus an opinion. Okay, this formula is a bit dry, so let's take an example. This is the most beautiful piston you can find in Nadi. Nadi in the Fiji Islands. C'est le plus beau piston qu'on puisse trouver à Nadi. Superlative. Le plus beau, the most beautiful. Followed by que plus opinion. Do we have the que? Check. Do we have an opinion? Well, I guess it's an opinion. I mean, how can I be sure that this guy is telling the truth? It is an opinion. This is the most beautiful piston you can find in Nadi. And this applies for marketing as well. It's crazy how easy it is to buy into the argument of a good seller because you're in a trance. But how much of that is an opinion? Man, it's very hard to notice how easily we are manipulated by good copy. But, you know, that's the word. That's the world as it is. And here it reminds us of that. You know, good grammar reminds you that in the world, we can do a lot of things with words. Very many things. This is the most beautiful piston you can find in Nadi. C'est le plus beau. C'est le plus grand. C'est le plus joli. C'est le plus intéressant. Plus que, plus opinion. And then you use a subjunctive mood, man. Or my girl. I have no idea. Are you a man? Are you a girl? My girl. Should I say my girl? A number of expressions also require the use of the subjunctive mood, like so that, afin que, whatever, quelque, although, bien que, and there are many of them. So I recommend you click the link below the video after this lesson. Right after this lesson, it's like in 2 minutes. so that you can find more of these expressions and you can develop your mastery of the subjunctive mood in French. Although this piston is only a rigid piece of sliding circular section, it still does a remarkable job. Bien que ce piston ne soit qu'une pièce rigide de section circulaire coulissante, il fait tout de même un travail remarquable. Although, bien que, check. Is it a subjunctive expression? Yes, it is. Bien que, check. Bien que ce piston ne soit, not writing, bien que ce piston est, ne soit qu'une pièce rigide de section circulaire coulissante. Interesting here, because it's becoming increasingly difficult for me to explain that it is a probability instead of something that is. But the way we frame this sentence reminds us that maybe the world is not the way it seems, right? Maybe it's something a bit mystical, or it is just the way that we need to follow grammar. Grammar doesn't have all the answers. It's a set of rules to make sense out of something that doesn't make sense, literally. So I don't expect grammar to explain everything about everything, but in this case, I think it's a fair information to say a number of expressions work with the subjunctive mood. And finally, warning, a word of warning. The subjunctive mood is not used when the two subjects of different clauses are identical, like in the sentence, I want you to do. I want that. How do I say that in English? This is a weird sentence. I want me to do. All right, that's the sentence. I want me to do. Well, it doesn't work. You cannot use the subjunctive mood in that sense. You're going to need to say je veux faire, which is very common. You have quite a bunch of verbs in English that can be followed by infinitives. And we'll have a lesson about that, of course. But in the meantime, you know that this is how we translate that sentence. I want me to do. Je veux que je fasse, right? It's a word of warning, and there are many, many in the French grammar, the very intricate, interesting French grammar. And now it's time to summarize. Today we learned that when thinking and hoping in interrogative or negative sentences, you need to use the subjunctive mood. We also learned that with verbs expressing strong emotions, like I regret, je déplore que, we need to use the subjunctive mood. When requesting, commanding, preferring, forbidding, allowing, we need to use the subjunctive mood. Il préfère que le repas soit servi dans un bol multifacette en cristal dôme. When coupled with a superlative followed by que plus opinion, we need to use the subjunctive mood. And finally, a number of expressions require the use of the subjunctive mood. Afin que, so that, quelque, whatever, bien que, although, all of these require the use of the subjunctive mood. Remember that when two subjects are identical, like here, you cannot use the subjunctive mood. Today was well interesting, wasn't it? Now is the time to complete the exercise. Click the link below the video. Surprise yourself with a perfect result. And I'll see you in another video. Thank you for watching. Take care.